Hey, Driven Autism Dads, it's Kyle Jetzel. I wanted to, I'm in my car heading over to get my daughter at school. She plays basketball for the high school, but I wanted to share with you the story about my dad, talking about my death when I was 11 years old. And my dad, and I've talked about my dad, I'll talk about my dad a lot. He was a great man, specifically for me. But he always knew the right things to say, or he seemed like he did. And maybe if he didn't, I just didn't catch the bad times. But anyway, there was this one time I was probably about 11 years old, 10 or 11 or 12, I don't know. But I was playing basketball in a neighborhood gym at a Catholic school down the street from where we lived. And sorry, I don't want to cause an accident here, so I'm being careful. But so I grew up in kind of a rough neighborhood, and it was kind of scary at night. And so I remember one evening, I guess time had changed, so it was getting a little darker, a little earlier, and basketball was over. And St. Cecilia, the church school that I practiced at with the team I was playing on, was probably a half mile from our house. And I came out and it was dark, and I thought, yeah, this isn't good, right? Because I had to run by a 7-Eleven, which was a hangout for some rough kids. There was a Pizza Paradise, which somebody got killed at when I was a kid, and the 12 Hills Apartments. And between St. Cecilia and those 12 Hills Apartments and the 7-Eleven was a big empty lot where kids used to go, I'm not kidding you, and huff paint. And if you don't know what huffing paint is, it's when you take a plastic bag and you spray gold spray paint in there, because that works the best to get you high. And if you didn't know that, forget I told you. I don't know how I know it. I never did that because of the impact it had on kids. It was horrible. But anyway, I came walking out. You know, I'm 11 years old, and it's a frightening neighborhood. And so I had, I ran. I sprinted half a mile. And I'm talking full-on sprint. There's no taking it easy here or jogging. It was full-on sprint. So when I got in the house, I was breathing heavy. I was leaning over. I was panting, and my dad was standing there. And I remember my dad saying, he says, why are you breathing so heavy? I said, well, if you haven't noticed, Dad, I was a little aggravated. We don't live in the best neighborhood, and I was scared. He said, well, what were you scared of? I said, well, I was scared of getting beat up. And my dad said, you've been beat up before, and you're probably going to get beat up again, but you're okay. Don't be scared. That was what he said, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm 11 years old, inner city Dallas in an area called Oak Cliff. And at the time, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, had the highest crime rate in the United States. So, yeah, don't be scared, son. You've been beat up before. You'll probably get beat up again. You healed okay, right? That was his answer. And it didn't really make me very happy. And so, thinking that I would outsmart him and take the next step, I said, well, what if they kill me? And I was looking for a little sympathy here from my dad. And my dad said, you know what? You're a good boy. He said, you're doing all the right things. He said, if somebody kills you, you're in a better place. And he smiled. And I can picture his smile. I can picture this whole scene. I remember the t-shirt I was wearing. It was white with blue rings around the sleeves and the neck, and a pair of blue sports shorts. And I had a pair of fake Adidas basketball shoes on, low tops. So just, scrawny little skinny kid. And when he said that, initially I was like, I was shocked. What? If they kill you, you're in a better place. And then he said, you know what? Don't walk around in fear. You look like a target when you walk around in fear. He said, stand up tall, walk strong. He said, people aren't really going to target those that are proud and stand strong. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, you know what, Kyle? Fear, worry, and doubt cannot exist in the same mind with confidence and faith. And you can tell I remember it because I can quote it word for word. Because you know what? After that, I told myself that multiple times. Fear, worry, and doubt. You know, maybe my dad is right. And my dad loved me, and I knew that. No matter what he said, my dad loved me, and I could feel that from him. And I could tell when he talked to me that he loved me. And so, you know, I'm 11 years old, 10 or 11, 12. I can't remember exactly. But I remember I was young, and I remembered, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe Dad is right. And so I decided that he was right. And that idea that fear, worry, and doubt can't exist in the same mind with confidence and faith, it changed my life at 11 years old. And I can remember coming up against difficult circumstances. I'll give you a couple of examples specifically. One example is I was walking downtown. I was about 19. I had graduated high school and I was working downtown. And some stranger comes up to me as a crazy looking dude, dressed wildly, and he's a black kid. I guess he was an adult. We were both kids, but probably in his mid-20s. And he said, "Hey, can I ask you a question real quick?" And I thought he was trying to rob me or something. I got a little, I bowed up. And he said, "Hey, I'm not trying to start anything. I just have a question for you." He said, "You really carry yourself not like a normal person. You walk like you got something you know." And he said, "I'd love for you to do some work for me." And so I said, I was still pretty cautious. And I said, "What kind of work?" And he said, "Well," and you're going to laugh about this because it's still funny to me. He says, I have a group of runway models called Roger's Unique Elements. And this guy's name was Roger. I think his name was actually Roger, but he thought if he called himself Roger, he would be more, have more class. And he said, "I have like 15 models, they're girls, that I make clothes for. And about once a month, I do these shows at different clubs around Dallas. We call them black and white clubs. We sell tickets, and you have to buy tickets to get in. And I got these 15 or so models that wear my clothes and they go in and out." He said, "But I need a guy to walk the runway with them. And I'll get you suits from stores around town, and I'll dress you in some really good looking stuff." He said, "But your job is to just shock the crowd, right?" He said, "Because I can imagine, I got all these black models wearing my clothes. It's a black club. The first one I went to was a place called Fat Albert's. That'll tell you how black it was. But, I thought to myself," and he said, "You're going to walk out, show the clothes, and walk back. And to pay you, I'll give you whatever outfit you like from whatever store we get it from. So that'll be your payment, whether it's a suit or whether it's whatever, trench coat, whatever. It didn't really matter." And so I'm standing there thinking, you know what? I don't need to be afraid. I just need to step into this. And so I said, "You know what? I'm your man. What do I do?" He said, "Okay, in 2 weeks, we're having a show at a club called Fat Albert's. And it was on, I want to say, Hampton and 67, Highway 67 in Dallas, which is right in the middle of Oak Cliff, which is where I grew up. And, he says, come at about 7. The show doesn't start till about 10, but nobody will be there at 7. And I want to just introduce you to all the girls." And, in my mind, I'm thinking, 15 black models? I'm in, right? I was in for that, right? I was a young, 19-year-old kid. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, right? Just get to meet all these beautiful women. And so I showed up, and sure enough, there they were. He had about 7 or 8 suits he wanted me to wear. He said, after the show, pick the one you like the best and take it home. And I remember he said, "But I want to see you walk. I want to see what you do." And so I just thought, you know what? I'm stepping into it. And I just stepped into it. I walked, pretended I knew what I was doing. I had no idea. I don't know anything about that stuff. But at the time, I was a lot younger. I was in great shape physically. I was even boxing, so I had a boxer's body with no fat on me. And he put me in all kinds of stuff. He put me in suits with no shirts on. But it was really fun because I was kind of the only white guy in the club. And when I would walk out, it would just shock everybody. And I've always had rhythm. So I'd walk out and do a little dancing as I walked and dance with some of the girls, and it just became this wild thing, and it became this incredible experience. As a matter of fact, one of the suits that I was given was a purple double-breasted suit with padded shoulders. And I remember it was the suit I wore on the first night that I kissed my future wife, Shelly. It was her birthday, and I invited her to go out somewhere really nice, and I wore that purple suit, and she ended up wearing a black and beautiful black and purple dress. And it was our very first kiss, was in the elevator on the way up to the restaurant in the Stouffer Hotel. Those of you that are from Dallas are going to immediately recognize a lot of the things I'm talking about. But it was those kind of things that I stepped into, and I had these incredible experiences. Another one was I started boxing. I was walking by a gym one day, and I saw an open door and a bunch of guys boxing, and I thought, I was an angry kid at the time, and I thought, I'll try this. And I just walked in and started boxing, and sure enough, I wasn't any good at it, but it was a lot of fun for me, and I had a lot of experiences, met a whole lot of people that really changed my life and really gave me experiences and made me a well-rounded person. But anyway, the message for today is pretty simple. There are going to be things that are and frightening for us, or that we don't know if we can do it or step into it. But ultimately, going into anything in a fearful state almost guarantees failure. But if you go into it with confidence and faith, even if you don't know what you're doing, if you go into it with confidence and faith, you can carry yourself in a way that can allow you to learn lessons. And ultimately, this experience, fear, worry, and doubt cannot exist in the same mind with confidence and faith, carried me through many occasions where my sons, specifically my more severe son on the autism spectrum, was having horrible difficulties. My wife and I weren't getting along in a lot of different situations where I just felt beaten and felt like I just couldn't do it anymore. I would overcome that through confidence and faith. I would say, what, I can't live in fear, worry, and doubt. I have to live in confidence and faith. And so my message to you is this: if you come across something, if it gives you cause for some sort of fear, or if it makes you worry, or if you doubt your abilities, I challenge you to flip that switch and say, what? If I'm confident, if I have confidence and I have faith in what I'm trying to do, even if I do the wrong thing, if I have faith that I'll find the right thing, then I can step into this and I can succeed. And I believe that. I believe that deep down in my core. And so I want to leave that message with you today. The next time you feel fear or worry or doubt creeping in, flip it. Fear, worry, and doubt cannot be in the same mind with confidence and faith. So hopefully that message resonates well with you. Frankly, fear, worry, and doubt, not living in the same mind with confidence and faith, gave me so many wonderful, crazy, wacky stories. I've lived an incredibly full, exciting life, full of wild adventures, simply because I stepped into things. And I stood up tall and stepped into them, even those hard things, even the things that I thought I couldn't win, or I was just going to be overwhelmingly defeated. I stepped in and I faced them with confidence and faith. And even when I lost, I learned, and I've come out the other end with just a buoyant, happy, living a happy, full life. And I want that for you, and I want your family to be happy as well. So, hey, hit me up if there's anything I can do for you. Hopefully that's helpful, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.